So good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to the WoT Pro League Season 3, Match Day 14. We have some incredible games coming up for you today. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's look back to Match Day 13, and it certainly was unlucky for some. Namely, let's look at Spale right now. They were the team that actually lost to Team WD, who'd gone this far without picking up a victory. And well, that was their first, so congratulations to those guys. Let's hope they can start picking it up from then on. Outside of that, though, Mousesports actually managing to take down Dignitas. That's another upset. This was an incredible match day. If you want to see it for yourselves, head on over to the WOTProLeague.com website and check out all the results, because other than that, it was a fairly regular day. Playing Ducks took down Ulanska Fantasia, Kazna Crew got the Bear of Denova, and Evil Panda Squad, well, they kind of shrunk next to WoT Pro, as we witnessed. But it was a great play day all over, and I've got to say it, there's some real upsets affecting those rankings now, because every single team is going to have to fight for their place now. It's getting so close to the top, and I think we can tuck into those rankings in just a second. And there's one major thing we all want to be pointing out right now, and it's very hard not to mention it. So let's have a little look towards those, because, well, it's right at the top there, isn't it?
It's Team Dignitas and WoT Pro. Obviously, WoT Pro is playing Oda Mortis, and Team Dignitas, which we will witness as our first game, is going to be playing Kazna Crew. Now, if Kazna Crew manage to beat Team Dignitas, that will put their scoreline to 10-0-3, or if it's even a draw, that means WoT Pro will sit back up onto that top space. But then again, WoT Pro is playing some very good team, Oda Mortis, who actually beat Team Dignitas in the first match day of this season. So that could be another upset. So WoT Pro could lose against Oda Mortis, and Team Dignitas could lose against Kazna Crew, and that's going to change the first two spots. And look at Denova, sitting on their heels. They've played so strongly, and to be honest, the last match day, I honestly think they outshone every single other team we witnessed there. They're looking so strong, and I've just really enjoyed how they've progressed as a team, especially considering I always talk about them as being the team to progress forwards. And also, Mousesports. 50% of their wins have been towards those two top teams, WoT Pro and Team Dignitas. But look at their results, 4-1 to 4-0-6. So they've had like a shaky season.
Really have.
And honestly, I hope that they can just, get those consistent results against other teams as well.
See, I think you hit on the point there that I wanted to make. The consistency is the biggest factor this season. Mousesports, even though they had really outstanding results against top teams, if you don't get them week in and week out, it doesn't matter. They're down in 8th. They're out of the top 6 now, and they need to build themselves back into that, and it's certainly a long way to go, especially when everyone's on form like they are at the moment. And I think we didn't really mention Kazna Crew in that, Max, kind of thing. We kind of briefly touched on it against Dignitas, especially, because that will be the first game. Make sure you get all your facts ready in this one, because basically that's the first game we're going to be watching. And I know there's a lovely lady waiting in the wings who will give you guys an idea of how you at home can get your predictions through to us here in the studio, and we love to hear from you. So let's welcome Melly onto the show and hope she's ready for you guys at home in Twitch chat. How are you doing, Melly?
Thank you, Lauren. I'm great. And of course I'm ready. I'm always ready for you guys at home. So it's pretty easy to get involved in our beautiful show. Head over to our social media platforms and be a part of our network by following our Twitter account at WoT Pro League and our Facebook page, facebook.com, WoT Pro League. You should see it right here. And yeah, and don't forget to follow our Twitch channel, because you get notified as soon as we go live. So it's pretty important for you guys. Don't miss a single minute, because our match days are always action-packed. So I will, of course, put up a vote on our Facebook page just to see how you guys at home think about the upcoming matchup, which team you see in favor, who do you think will win, and beneath these votes in the comment section, you can hand in your predictions regarding the current matchup. And if you guess right, if you guess the exact right scoreline of that matchup, you might have the chance of winning a bonus code. I will pick 3 winners amongst all submissions, and yeah, bonus codes for those. And another way of winning bonus codes is, of course, tweeting. Simply tweeting everything what's on your mind. If it's your opinion regarding the upcoming matchups, or if you want to hand in your submission there, go ahead, tweet us everything. You can ask our experts everything you like when it comes to the game, the tanks, the single maps, and whatever you wanted to ask our experts. It's basically that. And yeah, I will pick 3 tweets of the day at the end of the show, and those tweets will be rewarded with bonus codes as well. So that's pretty cool, I guess. And of course, I have a question to you guys. what is your favorite tank line? Tell me.
There you go. So you've heard exactly how you guys at home can get involved. And let's help those guys out. Let's give them the little head-to-heads in just a second, because then they can see who they're going to be putting their money on and maybe getting some bonus codes towards. Obviously, it's Dignitas up against Kazna Crew. Take us through these lineups.
So team captain for Team Dignitas is obviously Stalker. He's so infamous. He usually plays a T1 as he is a team leader, and I think that's the best tank you can play there. Standout players, I really think Shanish is probably their #1 player. Always plays that T69, and he always plays it on another level. It's just amazing to see how he does that one. In terms of heavy tanks, we've got Arclit, who transferred from obviously artillery back in Red Rush Unity. We've got Dream, he's an AMX 3090 player. Angel Kili came from the Red Rush. He was playing something like a T50-2. And now he also plays heavy tanks. So a general mix of players, all very skillful, all very capable of really pulling out some amazing performances, really some standout performances. Just have a look through some of our VODs. For Kazna Crew, we've got Still Mojo. He is that team captain who's joined us into Season 2 is Runes. He's really helped the team in terms of morale, in terms of just giving that team the extra boost when the times are hard. Standout player, definitely Hyber. T69, goddess or god. He's just incredible. And I want to see, in terms of Kazna Crew, Crook start stepping forwards into his role a little bit more as well.
Yeah, I really want to see these guys getting into their real strengths here, because both teams are so notable, and it's just wonderful to see them play at their absolute maximum, because you mentioned it before, Kazna Crew have defeated Dignitas, not this season, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken. It was actually Season 2, but there's not been too many changes since then. There's been minor ones, don't get me wrong, but you're still seeing the kind of structure of the team previously, but whether Kazna Crew can do it again, who knows? It's going to be a hard one to choose. I think they're just getting ready for those tank picks, so let's not waste any time. Let's get towards it. And what do you think we're going to be seeing here on Steps? Because just a moment ago, we were actually watching the American VODs from the WGLNA region and actual league, and they went for some really strange picks. They went for IS-3s in there. There was some crazy stuff. I don't think we'll get it from these two, but what do you think?
I honestly don't think so. I think in terms of heavy tanks, the only one we'll probably see or may see is that Tier 8 American heavy tank, the T32, of course. But so far, it's a T1 and an AMX 3090 for Kazna Crew. I think that's going to be mirrored either by 2 T1s or a T1 and AMX 3090 for Team Dignitas as well. Obviously, you got to remember, guys, that Kazna Crew have beat Team Dignitas before. That was in Season 2, so they have a chance here, and they played this season as well. And that was a close game. That was a 2-1 for Team Dignitas. So Kazna Crew definitely capable. I mean, we actually watched that match. It was a pretty incredible and pretty close. But yeah, we're just waiting for Team Dignitas to pick their lineups. Probably going to go for their standard one, which is along the lines of the 3 MX 3090s, the 2 T69s, and obviously those 2 T1 Cunninghams. We might have the Lichttractor as well from well, like Oda Mortis, I guess. We saw that from them.
They enjoy it.
They like that one just because it can do damage to those French tanks, which it's just, I guess, a good logical train of thought, especially on steps. A T1 is not particularly useful.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm just going to put something out. While they're taking their time over the choices, because they obviously want to get it right on this one, you want to get off to that good start. You know, Kazna Crew can build off it, so let's not pressure them too much just yet to get themselves underway. But in the meantime, you got to keep in mind what's going on at the same time as well, because Oda Mortis are facing off against WoT Pro, and basically it's who's going to end up in that top position right now.
Yep.
And I was just speaking to Yukai, one of the players from Oda Mortis, and he is nowhere near confident about their game. So by all rights, it's all about the game we're watching right now, because in Oda Mortis' mind already, they're defeated, which is a really bad way to go into a match. Yep. And the one thing with Kazna Crew, I always feel they have their kind of heads and their hearts in the right place. They really are that community, family-feeling team. You know what I mean? That when it gels, when it works, they're absolutely spot on. And if they have that today, if they're that close to, you know, really gelling together, I think that's how they can, undo Dignitas, even though Dignitas did look so good last time we watched them.
Yeah, they have that capability and they have that consistency, which a really good team of their caliber has. But tank picking has continued. The double T1's coming out for Team Dignitas, and the T1 and T69 is coming out from Kazna Crew. So far for Kazna, it's a T69 and AMX 3090, as well as those 2 T1s and just those 2 T1s for Dignitas. But they just added that with a T69 and an AMX 3090. So a mirrored lineup so far, which is what we'd expect. It's really these next few picks that will define any strange things that goes on. It could be the Pershing, although it's becoming a little bit more of a mainstay tank on steps. It could be the T-32, which we've seen sneaked in there a little bit. Also the 416, you can't forget that Russian Tier 8 tank as well. The AMX 3090 and the Pershing will be picked by Kazna Crew next, so they're going to go for that Tier 8 American medium tank, the Pershing.
Really enjoying that now.
I'm loving that tank.
Yep.
It's such a good all-rounder. It can do every single job perfectly. Reload time's decent, 6.5 seconds. Penetration, 268 millimeter. It's just a good little tank. I really enjoy playing it myself. It's one of my favorites. And obviously, one of the strong points is its gun depression, which is not great. I mean, it's a little bit worse than the T69 in my opinion. But it's got a little bit of turret armor, which is a little bit better than the T69. So sometimes it can actually be better in hold down situations. So we're just waiting for that next pick, Team Dignitas. It's their turn.
Do you think they might go for Pershing here, or do you think they're kind of going for their regular without it? But they've actually started using it themselves now.
I think they're going to go for a Pershing at some point. It's either going to be this pick or the next pick, or both of them. In fact, we've seen lots of teams pick 2 Pershings on this map. And it's not a bad thing at all. It just depends how you play. Obviously, if it comes down to a firefight, the Pershing compared to a T69 is not particularly great. But the thing is, if you can't use those AMX 3090s in a firefight, you can't get them to hit at least 2 shots. You can't get them in there. Then something like a T69 becomes almost redundant, because a T69 only can do 960 damage with its 4 shells, which is not enough to kill an AMX 3090. Obviously has 1,100 HP, which is really bad at the end of the day. It means you can't one-on-one a T69 unless you get lucky with the damage rolls, and that's just about. Yeah. So that's awful, really, and that's why an AMX 3090 is still considered the better pick. It's got a little bit of a higher skill cap. It's a little bit harder to play. But Dignitas are going to go for that 416 alongside that AMX 3090. So really going for that sniper. Obviously, it's got 320 damage, so average damage, so it can do a hell of a lot. It can almost push 420 or something like that as the average.
And what sort of reload time are we going to be seeing on that 416? If you know
it's about 8.5 seconds. It's not too bad at all.
No, indeed, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, and Hyber from Kazna Crew picking that 416 as well. And honestly, I think Team Dignitas, I think a T32 or Pershing is going to be their next one. So it could be a mirrored for Kazna Crew. It could be a mirrored lineup to Kazna Crews, who so far have been a 416, a T69, 2 MX 3090s, 2 T1s. And just looking at that last pick.
Now, what other options would they have to a Pershing right here? Excluding a T69, which is the easy kind of cop-out. What other options do they have?
Well, you can go something strange, like a Chinese Tier 8 tank, like a WZ-132. Or not a massive fan of that because of the penetration, 250. Or you can go for a T69 or something usual like that. But yeah, the last pick from Kazna Crew was the 416. And just hoping to find that Pershing as well. It's probably going to be... I think, honestly, Team Dignitas are really considering taking a T32. That's why it's taken them so long.
And why would you favor a T32 over, let's say, another Pershing here?
It's situational. The T32, 1,550 HP, can be very strong in certain situations, but Dignitas going to go for the standard pick, the MX 3090, making there's a completely normal lineup. They've just gone for the 3090s. The only thing that's strange there is the 416.
See, now, for my eyes these days, seeing a completely regular lineup kind of shocks me a little bit. It's, obviously the 416 is in there, but we know it's kind of placed, we know it's kind of rolled. So it's, I don't know, I expected a little bit more here.
Yeah, I honestly thought they'd throw the boat out a little bit more, throw the tank out, some would say. But yeah, that's going to be your lineups for today for this first map, which will be on steps. Kobler is going to be going down for Kazna Crew, so he won't be playing that lineup, which is not nothing to be. It's something to be expected. So for Kazna Crew, we got the double AMX 3090, the 416, the T69, the Pershing, the double T1, and for Team Dignitas, we got the triple AMX 3090, the T69, the 416, and those 2 T1s, of course.
So, guys, hopefully you've got your predictions in, or at least you're kind of trying to test the waters by watching this one, because I can't wait to see if Kazna Crew can get the wind, beneath their sails, behind their sails, should I say, they can really build off it. That's their strength, whereas Dignitas are kind of, the powerhouse, so they can pick it up even if they've lost a game. But Kazna Crew need this initial map in my eyes. They need to pick this one up to get that ball rolling. So I'm waiting to see what they go for here. I think there's a bit of a communication problem, so Dignitas are just going to sort that one out. They're going to take their time, but it does give us a chance to talk about steps, which will be the first map here, because we've seen the picks now, but it's about the implementation. Now, what can you read into, let's say, Dignitas' lineup? They've only gone for the 416, for example, in comparison to Kazna Crew hitting up the 416 and the Pershing. Now, what do you think that kind of connotates there?
Well, I think Team Dignitas is starting from the north, so the 416 could be good there just because of the sniping positions you can take along that line, but it's 50-50. I think they're going to... What their lineup gives them with the extra AMX 3090s is plenty of speed, plenty of versatility, and that's what they're going to use to their advantage. They're going to have the wolf packs of Gara, Applewell, and Armalee all together, and really going to start pestering Kazna Crew. They're going to be able to get from one side of the map to the other, and they won't have to worry about getting caught out too much because they are in an AMX 3090, which can do a serious amount of damage if it so has to. And for Kazna Crew, honestly, they've got the Pershing in there, and honestly, that's going to give them one advantage, and that's to hold down. Also, the HP of the Pershing is a little bit better, 1,440, which will mean that an AMX 3090 could just about one-shot it if it hits all 6 shells at 240 average onto that tank. So that could come into the equation as well. And that'll give Hyber a little bit more leeway when he has to deal with those situations.
Well, we can wait and find out on that one. I really can't wait to see which kind of composition really lends to each other here on Steps, because it is such an interesting choice to go for. So I do believe these guys are ready. We're just going to wait for that countdown before we get underway. Hopefully they give us the nod to say they are ready. Hopefully you can remind them. That'd be really nice of you, if you don't mind. But in my eyes right now, if Kazna Crew don't do this, they are in trouble. They need to get this map, they need to get it building, and in my eyes, this is their perfect chance to. They're strong on this map. We've seen them before. We saw Hyber doing massive amounts of damage previously, and I really cannot wait to see if he can do it again, because, you know, I'm such a big fan of the way he plays, but it's been a while since we've actually seen him really step up to that marker, so I do believe they are ready. So guys, let's get you that video towards Steps.
Steps is the other open map in the map pool, being 1,000 by 1,000, having no urban areas. There are 3 primary routes of attack: the trench, the rocky area to the left, and the middle road. The road offers direct routes to the enemy's base, but despite having a staggering amount of cover along the way, you are vulnerable to attack from all sides. The trench area provides for great engagements as it's only a few hills and rocks to cover the teams. Most of the engagements occur around this rock, the winner of which gains a crucial foothold on the map. The rocky left area provides the most cover for attacking and defending teams. It's essential that you pick tanks that can traverse from one side of the map to the other rapidly. They also must be able to get to the various key locations as quickly as possible. That is the key to victory.
So welcome to the first map. It will be Steps, and in the blue, starting in the south, it's going to be Team Dignitas, and in the north, in that golden yellow, it's Kazna Crew with a hell of a lot of work to do if they fancy their chances of taking down one of the top dogs right now in World of Tanks. So what are we seeing so far?
We're seeing Dignitas go over towards that trench side. They got the AMX 3090 of Armalee, Applewell, Garat there as well. It was obviously Shani, she's going to be playing that 416. He's going to be in charge of sniping altogether, so that's why he's going over that side. Armalee pushing straight forwards as well. He's going to be trying to get the initial spots off. Kazna Crew heading towards that mountainside as to be expected from the north these days, although most teams seem to go over towards the trench side. That has changed up a little bit as the teams have kind of progressed into the way they play this game.
Yeah, and I'm really liking seeing the way they're using this area with that 416 in play. Gets to really use its sniping capabilities, which I absolutely love. And it's not just those blind shots anymore, kind of doing the initial damage. It really can make a massive bit of difference early on. Hyber is the furthest forward, let's just say, really kind of pushing himself down that 4 line. But aside from that, we are seeing the split off of, I do believe, the 1390s and such towards the opposition. Armalee has received 1 shell. As we mentioned, there's such good sniping capabilities. We are seeing the T1s and Crux there just splitting off, trying to get the attention down towards that 1 and 2 line.
Yeah, it looks like Dignitas pushing up now. Garat's going to be there first, trying to get the spots off. Doesn't look like Team Dignitas have put all their presence over to the right side of the map. They've put all their tanks there just to make sure that they can ward off any push from Kazna Crew across there, anything they might have in mind. But as you said, Armalee is the first one to take some shots. He's down to 861. But Kazna Crew deciding to probe. It's with Crux in his AMX 3090, and behind him is going to be Dark Dawn. Personally, I would have gone for the other way around. I should put Dark Dawn first. He should be the one going, and as he is expendable, playing that T1, especially on Steps. But instead, they put it the other way around. It looks like Palauda's also there in the T1, so both T1s for Kazna Crew are there and playing pretty bold strategy here. And Team Dignitas are reacting, which could be what the Kazna Crew plan is, by sending all tanks back to the base, all just to defend. They're a little bit scared that that Kazna Crew are just going to come around, surround one of the tanks, and take that tier 8 tank down as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and I feel as though they're basically playing that waiting game of leaving, the likes of Hyber, Narlum, and a couple of others kind of playing that defensive line, so Still Mojo being there as well, and hoping that they get some vision from the fact that Crux did push forward, but Dignitas not falling for that one. They are well aware of what these guys are trying to do. Still Mojo playing a little bit defensively, as is Narlum now, just in case Dignitas did manage to push down, as they have very little vision towards that 6 to 9 line on this map. There's almost no one there for Kazna Crew, so they are depending on the likes of Paluda, Dark Dawn, Crux to make a bit of a play out of this one, and they are fairly aggressive, as you mentioned. But what sort of play do you think we can see evolving from this now?
Oh, well, they have one of two options. Basically, pushing up the right side of the trench is a little bit risky because you can end up pushing into a lot of cover from the rocks and the bushes and stuff and the general hills around the northern base, or they can push along the left side. And I think for Kazna Crew, their options are basically just to probe, try and take down the T1s, which they just missed a shot onto positive, and then just push forwards from there on out. But it does look like Palauda's going to be the bait. Garat's going to try and connect to Shellon, but he'll almost undoubtedly have some sort of cover from behind. And that MX-1390's gun, the F3, doesn't quite have the gun depression, but Garat's going to connect that shell, take out down Palauda anyway. But that does give Kazna Crew a little bit more information, because now they know that both, well, the MX-1390 know positives there, and they probably know that most of the other tanks are there from Team Dignitas, although Applewell and Stalker in the T1 and the MX-1390 are over towards that trench side.
Yeah, and well, Still Mojo immediately came in to try and help out, but Dignitas just using the cover perfectly. As you mentioned, it is such an issue when you push to this side, but now finally Still Mojo does land that shot that he wanted, taking Shanish down, a fair bit of health there, so he's got to be careful now. Back away. Crux was with him, so we're seeing Kazna Crew playing a bit of a defensive game. Initial bit of, aggression coming out to try and tease the Dignitas side to actually show their face, but aside from that, it's all about playing, the longer game here. Kazna Crew not going for that initial push just to, get the immediate reaction, but they're looking for that longer game now as Hyber, Veko, Narlum all making their way around, going on the long rotate, round the back, down towards that 7 and 9 round, towards the more normal, starting position that we see from teams of this side.
Yeah, they're going to try and do what most teams do from the beginning, go over towards the trench side. Just because they have baited Team Dignitas all over towards that rock side, which is going to give them a way in, basically. Okay, they have got Team Dignitas have got Stalker over there, but that's about it. He won't be particularly hard to take down, and he only has about 200 meters of spotting range, so he won't be able to do too much. Obviously, the MX-1390 has probably the cap 425 if it has anything like coated optics, which it could do very well, and that will give you 10% view range. And obviously, they have all 9 crew skills, so probably either way. But Narlum's going to get spotted by Stalker. There's about 150 meters between them two. And so he's got to be a little bit careful. It also gives Team Dignitas a little bit of an option. It shows that there's at least one T69 and probably a couple of others towards that side. So they can push along the trench side. They can get themselves into a better situation. But it doesn't look like Kazna Crew are going very heavily towards the trench.
Yeah, indeed. Veko, Crux, and Still Mojo splitting off in a bit of a 3-2 here. Narlum and Hyber are the only two really showing themselves over the defilade of that kind of hill there. Stalker finally gets taken down by Hyber there. That Pershing coming in perfectly when they needed it. But they've got a big bit of ground behind them now. They've committed to this. What can they do from here? Because they've only seen one tier 1. They haven't got the information they wanted, quite possibly. Maybe they wanted to catch out someone, in a little bit of unawares. And right now they're going to have to play to more of a passive nature, because you can imagine at this point Dignitas are up to something.
Team Dignitas are very up to something. They're just going to push straight across the middle. They know they can't get spotted. They know they can get there as quickly as possible. And it's a pretty quick move. It took about 30 to 45 seconds for them just to cross the whole field. And I don't think Kazna Crew is really expected that. It's not something we see all the time. Although Narlum and Hyber are going to spot up across that hill onto a couple of the tanks, I think Garat and Applewell. So Kazna Crew do know they have the element of surprising more. Hyber gets taken down one shot as well, so he's got to reverse and get out there. But the kind of HP pool is pretty much the same. One tank has been taken down for Team Dignitas, though. That is Stalker. He's out of the equation, but so is Palauda. Palauda's down for Kazna Crew. So everything's pretty much even Stevens, although Team Dignitas have taken one more shot, but that won't make too much of a difference when it comes down to that firefight, as it's often one tank going down very low, sub 300 HP, that really can start hinder the team's performance.
Yeah, we are once again seeing that 3-2 split coming out. Still Mojo, Veko, and Crux, the tanks with a bit of speed, going down a little bit further the 7 and 8 line, leaving Hyber, and I believe it's Narlum, just to play a little bit more carefully in the T69 and that. I believe it's a Pershing there. And we are just going to wait to see if this one comes out. They only managed to actually spot one player, and it wasn't Armali, so at least they're working out. There's at least 2 tanks now in this position. They did manage to connect that one shell previously. Now they're looking for more. Narlum and Hyber carefully looking over that Deflate. They do not want to give away anything here. As you mentioned, I think Kazna Crew know that they've kind of had their game plan worked out now, and they're just going to play for that careful retake, as there is 2 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock. Who has the advantage here, really?
No one really. I think it's pretty much even. As I said, there's a little bit more damage onto Team Dignitas than the other way around, but it's generally pretty even. It's not really going to make a huge amount of difference. The positional advantage, I wouldn't say it goes to anyone, although, you know, Kazna Crew have one thing going from them. That's the fact that all tanks are kind of clumped together as one, so they can be pretty happy when it comes down to a firefight, because they will just be able to deal with everything. But Hyber just took a shot.
Yeah, Hyber did take a shell, well, did try and make a shell towards Povel, but Garat immediately had eyes towards that Defilade, and as soon as that Pershing reared its ugly head, he did connect that shell. So Hyber's down to 690. The HP pool is not looking ideal for Kazna Crew in this situation.
They've got to be a little bit careful. The worst thing to happen, basically, is to lose a lot of HP off just one tank. You can lose it off, you know, 2 or 3 tanks, no problem. But if you have one tank on low HP, okay, you can stay in the firefight because he can just snipe. But at the end of the day, that's going to increase the amount of damage that's put onto other tanks, as it won't be spread out quite as much. And that will also mean that your low HP tank can get taken down very quickly. It won't have to, you know, it won't be able to get into every situation it would want to, perhaps. But it does a lot of Team Dignitas are on the rotate now. Armley, Garat, and Pavel pushing back to the base. They're going to be trying getting to positions. They got Shanish up there in a T6 in the 416 even, and I think Team Dignitas are going to go for the cheesy strat of just trying to take down one tier 8 tank and look for that 8-point advantage, which will give them the win if it comes down to it.
Well, they have spotted Crux here, who is in trouble. He's been left alone down this little bit of aggressive push now. Almali and Pavel appearing over the horizon. They must have spotted him. Shanish now appearing. Garat actually facing down Veko. Kazna Crew have to be so careful here. SOS being called out by Crux. He has 4 members of Dignitas staring him down, and now he's going to try and back the hell away. Those 1390s, they've got speed, but do they have enough right now? One shell connected onto still Mojo, but Crux and Veko now fairly safe, at least. They're using that deflated hill. It looks like they're going for the draw, but Hyber needs to be careful. 4-6-6. It's a tentative game right now. They do not have the HP to be messing around here. And look at Kazna Crew. They're so clumped together. They've got to be so cautious. Still Mojo and Narlum trying to be the meat shields for Hyber right now, and everyone else is playing passively to make sure they do not lose out on those tier points.
They don't want to be getting that tier 8 point. It's the worst thing in the world when you lose because of that. But Hyber and Applewell is going to push over.
Oh, but look at Applewell right now. He's got 9 seconds left. He needs to land these shells and land them immediately. 5 seconds remaining. I don't think they've got the time for it. Garat is moving in, as is Pavel. They're going to try and land, and Veko's down to 500, but it's stopped. It's game over. It's a draw at the very last second then. Literally, Dignitas made their move too late. My God, that could have gone either way then.
If they just took one tank and they just focused it out, it would have only taken about 4 or 5 seconds if they got every single tank just to focus on it. And that would have been game over. You get that 8-point lead and you take the win. It's simple as that.
The thing was, for me, Applewell was in the perfect position then to create it. That initial bit of doubt, every turret swung around as soon as he came over that defilade. And then you saw Garat appearing, you saw all the others coming onto the right position. But literally 10 seconds, if they did it 10 seconds earlier, Dignitas would have had that one, but I guess it just wasn't to be on that map, so they've actually drawn it out.
Yeah, I mean, we do play all 5 maps at the end of the day, so we're just going to skip on to our next one, and we're just going to continue playing that. But that's the draw, and that does make things a little bit interesting, because if it does come down to a draw at the end of all these games, then it'll just be 1 point each. Although that might still give Team Dignitas the little bit of lead they need. If Virtus Pro do take the win, then they'll be taken over. And if Virtus Pro draw, then everything will stay the same as well. So
you don't want to risk that,
it's
though,
like
do you?
3 ways this could go. It's pretty,
you
ridiculous.
don't want to risk the fact that Virtus Pro will go for a draw. I don't think I've ever seen them get a draw, let alone go for one.
Yeah.
So I'd rather not risk it, if I'm completely honest with you, especially when Virtus Pro are against someone like WoT Mortis, who are on that mid-season slump, that they actually admitted themselves that they started so well. Yeah, now it's like what's kind of happened, guys. It's all kind of falling apart a little bit. They don't have that chemistry that they initially did. But, you know, it doesn't take much for them to rebuild. They've done it before. They can certainly do it again. But I am waiting to see what can happen on the next couple of maps, because for me, Steps then, it was kind of shaken up by, let's say, Kazna Crew's initial move. It was a little bit out of the ordinary. So I'm not too sure what to really, get into that one. I'm kind of curious as to what they're going to be going for, but I do believe they're almost ready for the tank picking. So let's get ready for that one, because we'll be going on to Prokarovka next, which I don't think we'll see a draw from these two on it. I think because of the last time around, they realized, we could have made a move here, and, well, let's do it on this one. It's Prokarovka.
I mean, we see more draws on Prokarovka than we do on Steps. I think the nice thing about Steps is the fact that you can be really free with the way you pushed. I mean, okay, it's quite a polarized map, a bit like Prokarovka, but it's not quite so. On Prokarovka, from the north, you go over towards that road with the trees along the side of it most of the time. From the south, you go over towards that village most of the time. So you have those two options, which really polarizes the map. And without artillery, which to deal the damage and really just go for those blind shots, it can make the map quite slow. But it's like 20% of the time. Most of the time, the map is pretty quick. Most of the time, it's all about those sniping shots and getting those T1s out as quickly as possible. But the tank picking it has begun with a double T1 from Team Dignitas. That means they'll be picking second to last, which could give Kazna Crew the edge in picking something a little bit odd. The double T1 is going to come up from Kazna Crew as well.
Yeah.
As well as the AMX 1390 and T69 for both teams. Make it a double T1, a double AMX 1390, a double T69.
Now, you mentioned sniping on this map. Do you think we're going to see the 416 in play? Because that does sound kind of, instantly, kind of applicable if they want to go for that sort of start.
We've seen Spell take the 416 before. We saw it in the middle of the map on Prokarovka, and I think it was pretty obvious what his weakness is. Because of the way the tank is built with the turret in the back, the gun depression is diabolical, to say the least. It can't get that depression. It can't, get into a position where it's reasonably safe, where it can kind of shoot with its turret showing and nothing else. It has to actually drive over the hill full stop, get itself in the middle of the open, and then just try and go for the shots there, which is really disastrous at the end of the day. I mean, the 416, it's got its advantages because it can do a lot of damage in a short period of time, and it's obviously a very good sniper, and it's pretty damn quick, to say the very least. But it's a 50-50, just depends on the situation, as Team Dignitas is going to take the MX 3090 as well as that T69, and that'll go for Kazna Crew as well, make it a double MX 3090, a double T69, a double T1 for both teams, going into that last pick. Probably this as well, we'll be seeing a Pershing or a 416 come out. Don't think we'll be seeing a T32 like we've seen on Steps, but for Team Dignitas, not going to be any of those. It's going to be the MX 3090, just a completely standard tank. And for Kazna Crew, although definitely going for the Pershing this time round. So for Team Dignitas, they have the faster lineup, they have the more versatile lineup, but for Kazna Crew, they have the more situational lineup. They have all the bases, all the T's crossed or the I's dotted in a lot more places. They have a lot more consistent lineup. They can take a lot more damage. But the thing is, if the MX 3090 gets behind a Pershing, it's pretty much game over.
Yeah, I'm not sure what this can really entail. Obviously, Kazna Crew now want to go for that victory, as do Dignitas. It was seconds away before, literally 10 seconds. It was the difference between winning and losing. So, guys, I do believe they are ready. And now, let's get you ready for that Prokarovka video.
Prokarovka, a large map at 1,000 by 1,000 meters, which allows teams to stretch their legs and artillery to test their skills. There are 3 primary routes of attack: over the left tree road, the middle area, and towards the town. The tree road is very open and flat, but has a very large number of bushes and trees that provide good cover if you're not shooting. The middle area is where the initial engagements happen, as teams gather as much information as they possibly can. Both teams are fairly symmetrical and only offer small hills and bushes as cover. The middle area is where the initial engagements happen, as teams gather as much information as they possibly can. The railroad that splits the map has a large number of bushes running alongside it that provides good cover, and the occasional route of attack in the village and hill area. Teams should look towards taking fast tanks and artillery as they complement each other on this expansive map.
So let's get this show on the road indeed. We are into Prokarovka, our second map here, and in the south it will be Kazna Crew, and in the north, Team Dignitas. Currently it's all even, as it was a draw previously, but now they are certainly out for blood. So what are we seeing initially here? So
Team Dignitas doing the standard thing, pushing up the MX 3090, the double T69 in the background to provide that firepower. Along the middle, they got Positive in the T1. He's going to go in that roadside, and Armorly, of course, going quite far to the right, which is a little bit surprising because we don't often see that. And for Kazna Crew, they're going to be heading up the more railroad side, which will give them a little bit more cover because they have the bushes, which provide about 30 to 60% camo value, or with the MX-1390, who has plenty of camo anyway. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But it's a pretty polarized situation right now. We've got Team Dignitas just heading over that hill, and Kazna Crew just on the other side of that hill, which is really going to help, I think, Kazna Crew. I think they have got the advantage because all they have to do to get into cover is what they're doing right now, pushing into that village, getting tanks behind those houses, and then they can play out from there. And Pavel also just, I don't know how he did it, but he just about bounced a shot. It like skimmed off the back of his tank. Very lucky. It could have been Kazna Crew with the advantage in this early stage of the game.
Yeah, and Veko's feeling a little bit adventurous, actually, pushing quite far down that 6 line out of the village, making sure it is all clear for them to possibly move in there with the T69 presence as well, which I think has just had the nod and the go-ahead as they are now infiltrating the village. As Shanish will let a couple of shells fly, no real connections. Narlum has sprayed out Garat there as Veko moved in. He received a shell himself, but still, 8-7-1 against 8-7-7. It's so close, but Veko is holding him at bay. He knows he's got the cover from the teammates behind him, but he's just got to be a little bit careful here.
Yeah, but look at Apoel. I mean, come on. He's absolutely sneaked his way into the back of Kazna Crew. This is pretty much unheard of. He's just sitting there. He's not letting anything fire. He's not getting himself spotted because as soon as you fire, you just negate every kind of camo you have around you. So he's just going to sit there, get the spots out as he can. Coblione is constantly getting spotted. And I think Kazna Crew are probably asking themselves, what is actually spotting us? But when the firefight does happen and Team Dignitas charge across that field, Apoel will just be able to come from behind it, and he's going to inflict so much damage. I don't see how they can recover from this.
Yeah, and you can see still Mojo being a little bit careful about this one now. He's even backed away. The 1390s of Dignitas have found Dark Dawn, the T1 for Kazna Crew. So it's a small advantage, but they have removed complete vision from that left side of the map now. It's all now focused towards that village and that questionable, spot that's coming towards Cobra Leone, who's kind of trying to find his own way out now and try and work out where the spot is coming from, because now Hyber's received a shell. He's spun around. He's still not sure, but he will find out soon. Applewell is playing this perfectly. You are seeing Team Dignitas right now making the move towards the village, pincering in Kazna Crew, who are receiving shell after shell. And now this could be Narlum in trouble. He's the player who's going to be on the receiving end of that initial damage as they come over that. Oh my word, it's shell after shell, and they still haven't spotted them. Finally, there we go. They peer up, they melt him down in a matter of seconds, and Applewell played that so damn well, splitting the attention of Hyber immediately away from covering off his teammate. Paluda is the next target of focus, who's received a fair bit of damage from Shanish there, but Dignitas pulling them in every direction possible.
Perfect. Absolutely amazing. As he said, Kazna Crew getting distracted by Apoel and the MX-1390 on the hill, pushing up towards him, try and take him down, and then the T69s of Pavel and Shanish come from behind. But still, Mojo also gets taken down by Positive.
Yeah, but look at Hyber. He's going on the hunt now, trying to find out exactly where Applewell is. He's got him in his sights, does get the shell he wanted. He's got the HP advantage, but will he land every single shell? Oh, he's missed one. That could be the undoing of him right now, as the rest of Dignitas know where he is. Applewell is out of there, but they've tracked him. They've held him in place. This could be perfect. One more shell. He needs to get these going. No, Applewell has got away from his vision. Now Hyber is laying it away, but Applewell crashed, and that could be it. This could be the difference now. Veko and Garat going head to head. Veko pushing over that railroad, trying to challenge one-on-one, but he does not have the HP to be doing this. He gets punished by Garat, and now Kazna Crew are in dire straits.
Very impossible for them to come back from this one. It's pretty much every tier 8 tank down apart from one, and he's going to have to do everything. It's the team captain, still Mojo, playing that tier 8 medium America tank, the M26 Pershing, the infamous, but he's also going to be in trouble from Pavel.
Yeah, he needs to back away. He can't escape this one, though. Pavel is eyeing him up right now. The shells are whizzing past him, and as much as he'd love some help from the likes of Hyber, he is so squidgy right now. He's only on 152 HP. He can't be helping him out, beyond the Call of Duty, because he's in trouble himself, and he's careful of his own push. He's worried of what's coming over the horizon, and well, I think he's got a right to be.
He certainly does. It's pretty much game over. Stalker's going to go in first, though. Shanish just take down Hyber, the team captain. Finally, he was on a one-shot. Stalker's going to go over, try and get the spots out. He's going to be distraction. Maybe he can actually bait a shot from Still Mojo, which will mean he has 6.5 seconds for that M26. He does indeed. Pavel will have now an opportunity to push across without having to worry about the 2 shots instead of the 1 coming out from that T69. But Armali finishes him off, no problem at all, leaving only Coblione left lonely in that T1 Cunningham.
Yeah, and I'd love to see Cobra Leone do something here, but it's a near-on impossible situation. Well, it is a flat-out impossible situation. And that was sheerly brilliant play coming from Team Dignitas, who are going to finish this one out with a bit of a bang there. So Dignitas will be picking up the second map there in some incredible fashion. That play from Applewell, go watch that one back because that was absolutely beautiful.
Amazing. I mean, literally amazing. To really have that courage to push up a hill on your own without really knowing where the other team is or what it's doing, and then just having that execution to just bide your time. You know, you can see tanks left, right, and center. You can get the shots off no problem at all, but just waiting, being patient. And then as soon as your T69s are in position, then you make the shot, you get the distractions, and then Kazna Crew starts committing resources to try and take down Applewell. And by that time, it's already lost because you got the T69s in the background just to push in, finish off the lonely T69 of Kazna Crew. And once you've lost that one tier 8 tank, and you've got Applewell on the hill sniping, I mean, it's just impossible.
Yeah, and well, only one tank was actually picked up in favor of Kazna Crew. They could only take down one player pretty much. It was because Applewell basically suicided off the cliff. He just decided he'd had enough by the end of it. He was like, well, I'm off. Yeah. You know, he denied them any chance there. And the only other player to actually fall was Povel in T1. So got to give credit where it's due. Dignitas barely losing a player. Povel hitting 2.1k, which is extremely impressive on a map like this. But we are going to be going to Abbey next. Now, not sure who that one really favors here because I'm never a big fan of Dignitas on this map. I don't know why. I don't like their playstyle on it as much as others. You know, I like WoT Pro. They're very clinical about it, and Dignitas sometimes lack a bit of that. Normally have that brilliant insight laying in wait, but I feel as though this could be where Kazna Crew can turn it. This is one of their stronger maps in my eyes. I've always liked the way they play this. Even when their execution can be sometimes a little bit questionable. Let's just say, hopefully we don't see that 4-1-6 tactic coming back where they decide to push through the Abbey. But I don't think they'll do it against Dignitas. I think they're almost ready. They are indeed for the tank picking. Let's not waste any time here. And what do you think we're going to see this time? Because last time we saw that 4-1-6 with Kazna Crew, they went for some crazy push and it went terribly wrong. Yeah,
I don't think we'll be seeing a 4-1-6, to be honest. I think Team Dignitas are just going to go for the standard lineup with that AMX 5100 and the same goes for Kazna Crew. Although they could pick a 4-1-6, I think a Pershing is a little bit too slow for Abbey. And, you know, you were talking about how Team Dignitas definitely not a favoured map on this one, the favoured team on this map. That's just because they're not quite as clinical as some teams. I think they struggle to control all the variables, control every single section of the map, use that map control to your advantage.
Which is a rarity for Dignitas.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, it's such a complicated map and it's got so many factors and so many routes and so many different things you have to control that some teams just really struggle, and they often just say, screw it, we're just going to go over towards that mountainside and we're just going to play for the firefight and see if we can win that. But the AMX 3090 and the T1 is the Kazna Crew first pick, and the double T1 for Team Dignitas will be their first pick. So standard stuff from the start, which is what we'd expect to. Obviously, we're going to be seeing the T69 and the MX 5100 just join in that fun as well in those tank picks. So we're expecting to see probably Team Dignitas go over towards the trench, probably leaving MX 3090 in the middle with the T1s. And the same goes for Kazna Crew, to be honest. I think they want that firefight. They don't want to have to chase Team Dignitas across the map as much as they possibly can. So double T1 for Team Dignitas, their next pick. T1, T69 for Kazna Crew is they're going to do their next one. So they got the MX 3090 and the T69 as well as those two T1s.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of this. Now, what sort of strategy do you think Kazna Crew can run here if they do want to kind of pull the attention of Dignitas in other directions where they can't control those variables?
They have to look towards the middle. The middle is the hardest place to really play perfectly on Abbey. It's so hard because there's so many different routes in and out and all around. And it can work really well. But also, if the other team has complete dominance over that mountainside, then also it can go disastrously because they can snipe up from there. And unless you're in cover, you're behind some of the walls and houses, and you're just dead meat. MX 3090, MX 5100 for Kazna Crew is their next one. So that tier 8 French tank, heavy tank is going to come out, which we'd expect. And the same is also going to come out from Team Dignitas. Last pick from Kazna Crew is going to be the T69. So they're going for something completely normal. It's going to be the double AMX 3090, the double T69, the AMX 5100, and the double T1. While Team Dignitas has also gone for that lineup as well, the double AMX 3090, double T69, AMX 5100, and double T1. So completely mirrored and also standard lineup from these two.
Well, this is the chance now for Kazna Crew to get themselves back in this. As you said, the pivotal point, in your opinion, would be that central Abbey exchange, and we know how well Hyber and Veko can both play that. I don't think we'll be seeing Veko there this time around, but Hyber certainly can do wonders when he's given the chance in that position, so all eyes on him, in my opinion, at least there. So it's all down to Kazna Crew to turn this one around. If they lose this, I feel as though Dignitas will have too much momentum, too much confidence to let it drop afterwards. So we are just waiting for the go-ahead from Team Dignitas to make sure they're prepared for this, because obviously they want to get this map under their belt. If they can do that, they've taken down the biggest threat that Kazna Crew can cause, and it will be on Abbey. Normally, this is their deciding map because they can always do well on here and they can pull it back. It's a good position for it to be in. Hopefully we don't see any cheesy strats coming out from Kazna Crew. I feel as though they won't be doing it here. They know the magnitude. They can tell how close this season is getting as well, because the season really is heating up. As we said, Mouse Sports have taken down Dignitas and WoT Pro, but they're still in 8th. It doesn't matter if you do it, once, a bit of a one-off. You've got to do it week in, week out. And Kazna Crew will be feeling the brunt of that right now. They've got to be able to get these results in consistently, especially when they're so close to the likes of Spale, when they're so close to that mid-table position that can go either way here. It's so hard to actually break ahead at the moment.
It's just to say the least, really. And honestly, I want to see it. I want to see Dinova. I want to see them go into the top 2. That's really, really what I want to see, because it's been Team Dignitas and WoT Pro back and forth throughout Season 1, throughout Season 2, and now into Season 3, they're sitting in those top 2 finally after about 8, 9 match days. I want to see Dinova break it. I want to see Kazna Crew also head up to that top 3 spot, take Dinova's spot if they do take the top 2, and that really shake up things for the better. But it looks like both Team Dignitas and also Kazna Crew are ready here.
So hopefully we will not be waiting any longer. I can imagine they're just going through those last-minute strategies to try and make sure they are prepared for this one, because it's all about that cohesion, all about getting your mind in the right place. And looking how Applewell played that last map, he is certainly going to be ready for this one. So let's get ourselves ready for that video of Abbey.
Welcome to Abbey, a hard but gratifying map to master. Abbey is 1,000 by 1,000 meters and has 3 main routes of attack: the left mountainous area, through the Abbey in the middle, or in the trench to the right. The housed Abbey area in the middle, the winding trench road, and the treacherous mountainous area. The Abbey area can be moved upon on a central road. Often the 2 teams battle it out for the higher ground. The mountainous area often sees intense action as it overlooks the Abbey and provides key access to the enemy's base. The base area can also be accessed via the trench and is a common route of attack. It is essential to defend your base. Teams must pay close attention to their tank setups, and in particular how they utilize them to greatest effects on what is a very complicated map.
Well, thank you very much there, Joe. As you just found out, Abbey is a very complicated map. We are seeing in the south, in that golden yellow, Kazna Crew now trying to come back against the rather blue side of Team Dignitas from the north. What are we seeing so far from these
Team
two?
Dignitas doing the predicted, sending the T69 up the middle, and also Pavel to the left. He's going to go with the T69, trying to get behind the Def Lade there. Amelie in the MX-5100, he's going to go up the mountainside. He's alongside Stalker in that T1, the team captain. And the 2 MX-1390s, Applewell and Garat alongside that positive in the T1 are going to be going towards the trench side. So a pretty mixed start from the side of Team Dignitas. Kazna Crew, as expected, gone all towards the mountainside. They're looking for that firefight. It's also a decent tactic from the south. It's a little hard to kind of play everything a lot more dynamically from there. It's a little harder to play the standard tactics, I guess. But Kazna Crew definitely looking for the firefight. I hope they do. Obviously, they got that 5100 in position if it does come down to it. But the thing is, Team Dignitas also has a 5100 in a decent position. That's over towards the B3 side. He's going to be there just to deal with anything that pushes along, do as much damage as he can. If he gets taken out, which I don't think he will, because he can just reverse back down and get himself out of that situation, you can see he's actually going to go down into the middle. He's going to be joining his friends Pavel, Appal, Positive, Garat, and Shanish. But also that MX-5100 from Kazna Crew gets spotted out, probably by Garat.
Yeah, indeed. And well, Veko's kind of felt the peer pressure of that, or at least the pressure of it, going to back off a bit. Play it carefully, play it smart. And this is the first time in a while that we've actually seen Kazna Crew not putting at least 113.90 in towards that central Abbey position. Why do you think that is?
I think they have a slight inkling of what Team Dignitas want to do. If they did put an AMX 1390 in there, they would have probably been caught out by Shanish in its T69 because he had a pretty good spawn.
Yeah.
And that would have been disastrous. The AMX 1390 has a much longer reload than the T69, about 25 seconds with the T69, which would mean it could get the shots off, it could do the initial damage, give Team Dignitas that initial advantage they need to push forwards, and obviously in that firefight as well. But it does look like Pavel has joined Armley. He's over towards that mountainside. It might be indicative of something they want to do. Koblin's also there. He's going to be trying proxy spotting. He is indeed proxy spotting Applewell in his AMX 1390. And that will give Kazna Crew a decent amount of information. They know now the AMX 1390's location, but there's also another two which they have to worry about.
Yeah, and Hyber's now trying to rotate off. He's normally that central Abbey position player, but he's come back towards their own flag point just to try and play possibly towards that more Abbey area, maybe play it from a little bit further back this time. And with spots like that coming out from Cobra Leone, it's exactly what they need. So he's going to be kind of keeping eyes across, play not necessarily a sniping role, but he's going to at least try and get some fire down from afar and maybe work his way in there eventually, I can imagine. But at the moment, aside from that, it is Kazna Crew still locking down that 1-2 line, playing it carefully, trying to be smart about this and not waste the advantages they may have.
You don't want to be giving away anything, you know, in this early stage. You don't want to be just pushing yourself into an awkward position, getting caught out. We've seen that so many times before. But Hyber is going to get spotted out. He's going to get by Garat. And you can see that long view range of that tank coming into the equation. Honestly, it does kind of give the chase away a little bit. Although Dark Dawn's pushed up forward in his AMX 1390, often when you play all your tanks over towards that mountainside, it does mean you have all control over that mountainside, apart from the last two squares, as you can see up in this location. So it does look like Team Dignitas, though, are going to push forwards. It's Pavel and Armley even. They're going to try and take down the MX 1390 there. They're going to see if they can just get that tier 8 point advantage. Obviously, it'll give them a huge advantage in terms of firepower and HP as well.
Well, we are seeing Dark Dawn, Narlum, and I believe still Mojo all pushing up here, so they will be met with some fairly large amount of force if they do actually fully commit to this. They aren't too far away now. Still Mojo is pushing in with that T69, looking for that player he knows is just tucked into that corner. No spots being made, but Dark Dawn has made his way around now. Spots out Armley there, and at least he does have some backup. The likes of Narlum, Hyber, Veko, not too far away if they need it. Still Mojo has split off, going to be trying to face down that tier 1, exposing himself quite some way, so fairly aggressive play to just execute one tier 1 there. But being Stalker, you can imagine obviously the magnitude of that is just the fact it's the team captain taken out there. We are seeing now a push coming out from Kazna Crew, so looking to find their way through here at least. Yeah,
the T69 is going to push on. That's because Armley did a couple of shots. Pavel's going to punish him though. Narlum going down to 1-1-0-5 out of 1,350 in that T69. But that was a bold play from Still Mojo. I'm surprised he did it because of Armley's position. I'm surprised that Team Dignitas didn't punish Kazna Crew more for that.
Yeah, because literally Still Mojo showed his whole side then for a good couple of seconds, and you don't need to give, Dignitas the bite of the cherry twice. They will happily normally take your arm off. But this time around, Kazna Crew seemed to get out of there fairly unscathed, receiving only one shot towards Narlum, one towards Still Mojo, and that is a lot better outcome than it could normally be if you take chances against Team Dignitas like that.
Kazna Crew now pushing back to their base with all tanks and looking towards the middle, which you have to do to stop and just make sure that there's nothing taking that early ground, and also make sure that if you do push back and the other team pushes back onto you, then you don't get caught in that middle crossfire situation. That'll be awful. So they're checking for Applewell, who's actually alongside the opposite side of the Abbey. He's playing the MX 1390, so he's kind of weaving his way in, out, and everywhere. And he's trying to find his way into this game, because so far, Team Dignitas and Kazna Crew haven't been too offensive. And honestly, I think Kazna Crew's actually been a little bit more offensive this time.
Well, they're going for a bit of a swim right now. Narlum, Dark Dawn, and Hyber all making their way through the kind of lake that's present, or should I say puddle. They kind of made it through pretty easy. Towards that central Abbey position, Hyber's the first one really to make his way forward in that 1390. Dark Dawn now joining in. They are looking like they want to take this middle position, get control of the map as best as they can. But then again, they are also allowing the opposition at least least a little bit of a chance into this one.
Yeah, but they're going to be rewarded, I think, because they have put a lot of tanks up there, and they're probably going to catch out Applewell if he doesn't be careful. He's just weaving his way in and out. But the thing is, once he does get down and out of here, it's not too hard to do so because he can get the one shot off, run away, which he actually misses, and his gunner gets taken down. So he's probably going to have to repair that. And honestly, Team Dignitas are not in the right position to try and deal with the crossfire they've got.
Yeah, indeed, but they are making their move down that 1 and 2 line, which could mean the likes of Steel Mojo will fall to the hands of Povl, who are pushing up now. Every single other member for Kazna Crew is towards the central Abbey, so they're going to have to create a crossfire. Steel Mojo is trying to escape this as much as he can, but the T-69 is not exactly the most nimble of tanks to get away with. The 1390s now moving into position. Veko, Narlum, everyone else trying to line up in case they can see at least a member of Dignitas, but they are now split apart.
It's Team Dignitas now pushing up. They're going to be going for the base. Armley and Shanish are going up forwards, and they're leaving Povl and Garat to look towards the middle. And they have the upper ground. Team Dignitas have the higher ground advantage, which means so much, especially considering they have 2 T-69s with that gun depression. He'll be able to really punish Kazna Crew.
Oh, but look at this. These guys are going on the rotate straight away. They've gone round the back, so Hyber, Narlum, and Darkdawn trying to read the play. Garat has caught onto the idea, though. Not landing the shell. Hyber will. Hyber's punished him down to 401. Hyber now needs to push in. He wants to finish this one down. He wants to eliminate Garat so they can focus on the remaining players who are retreating back from Team Dignitas. He's being cautious, though. You can't take them for granted here. And one shell could mean real trouble for these guys, but he knows he's alone now. He could get one more connection. Not going to risk this time. Play it safely, play it smart. He knows Dignitas will be on the retreat.
Povl is going up now. He's the first one to get back, connects the first shell. Garat's also going to go forwards. He's on 401, so he's a 2-shot at the 240 average damage, the T-69 and the AMX-1390 have. Obviously, the AMX-5100 has more, but it looks like Team Dignitas are just surrounding and putting a lot of risk onto the Kazna Crew here.
Yeah, Kazna Crew are in trouble. They've got 3 players against almost all of them. It's a bit of a troublesome situation. Narlum feeling the brunt of it. Oh my god, Hyber is in trouble. Applewell's come around the back. He has got a bit of a taste of vengeance now. Going to be going in, does get the shell connection, but Applewell's down low. 157, one more shell does it. That's Hyber doing the work that we know he can do. Narlum now being moved in on by the other remaining tanks from Dignitas. Cap is underway. Narlum gets one onto Garat, gets a second. He needs to get the final shells across, but it's not going to happen. He goes down now. Darkdawn picks up the mantle, does whatever work he can do, but he's all alone in a 1v2. Shanish stopping him from getting anywhere near his teammates. He is very much alone. He is very much outgunned, but he's trying to get away as Amelie is in trouble as well, down to 610 HP, and now he has got Shanish hot on his tracks.
Well, it looks like Team Dignitas are at the disadvantage right now, having lost 2 AMX-3090. Narlum's the only one's gone down for Kazna Crew playing that T-69. So honestly, it'll be very surprised if Kazna Crew do lose this one. But Shanish, he's on the hot heels of Darkdawn and he's got the reload.
Indeed he does, and now it's landed it perfectly. Not going to track him though, he's still rolling. 82 HP, he doesn't get away. Shanish will land the shell that he needed so desperately. And now Amelie and Steel Mojo going blow for blow. The T1 has been eliminated at least, or at least reset, should I say. But Steel Mojo still landing those shells. Takes down that 5100, and now Dignitas are in severe trouble.
Veko, 300 average damage on that SA-47. He can do some serious damage to Povl, who's on 1,018 HP in that T-69. But Shanish got reload. He will take down Steel Mojo. And it's Povl, Shanish versus Hyber, Veko, Kobluren, and Plowder.
Indeed, but look at it like this way. It's a 2v2 basically, but the time has run out. But what was the tier point counter at the end of that?
I can have a little look.
Check in with that one.
It's gonna be just 2 tier points in the advantage for Team Dignitas. So it's not a win for both of these.
So it's another draw.
It's a draw.
Wow, right down to the end again. That clock is working against these guys. It is really going down to the wire. And once again, it was more Kazna Crew not making the move that time around than Dignitas. Dignitas did make the moves. They did try it, but it just didn't work in the end. And Kazna Crew did have the advantage, as you mentioned, with Veko still standing. But they did not use the kind of capability that they had there to actually pick up the victory. Do you think they kind of lost track of the time or just kind of forgot the position they were actually in? The
problem is basically that they had a good tactic just to take down one tier 8 tank, but from there on out, they weren't in the positional advantage, which allowed Team Dignitas to get themselves back into the game. And honestly, you have to be very careful about positions because you might be able to take that one tier 8 tank down, but how much are you sacrificing to do that? So honestly, I think Kazna Crew could have won it. They just needed to make sure that MX-3090 escaped, and they should have gone for the T69. Should have pushed up that hill, hit him out, because he had the most advantage. He could just snipe off that hill. He had the gun depression. He was completely obliterating from that. And the two T1s, they should have been used as a pest as opposed to try and cap. And at the end of the day, Kazna Crew just failing to execute, failing to really make that next step.
Yeah, I liked some of their individual play, I've got to say it, like in the smaller aspects of that game when they took the initiative to, you know, rope around the back. They did some really good minute play, but it was that finishing blow they just didn't seem to really have there, which is quite surprising. Because normally they do kind of close these out quite nicely, but just lacking that final bit of push there almost. But bearing in mind, currently the score is only 1-0 basically in favor to Team Dignitas. This is going all the way through, especially with all these draws in the mix. They are going to be playing this one right out to the very last map, I can imagine. And I'm not sure what map we're going to be seeing here. What do you think we're going to see as a decider?
I think, you know, it's going to have to be Ensk, and honestly, Team Dignitas, they need to win every single other game now. It's either make or break. They have to win 3-0 to get the well, they don't have to win 3-0. They just need to have the one more map under their belt, but they just need to get those wins down. Otherwise, Kazna Crew will get the momentum, they get the wind in their sails, and they will probably take the win as well. Because although, you know, Team Dignitas just need one more win, Kazna Crew needs 2 more wins and not a single loss to Team Dignitas right now.
Yep.
Which it's a tall order, but it's certainly possible.
Now, I do want to mention, obviously, the other game going on right now is WoT Pro against WoT Mortis. These two kind of matter a hell of a lot. And I do believe it's 1-1 with a draw at the moment. So it's very close games all around. And we said WoT Pro don't draw games. They either win them or they lose them. Most of the time, it's obviously a victory. But I'm going to try and keep live updates coming for you guys so you can keep up to date, because it will change who's first and who's second. Or it might not, actually, to be fair, if they both kind of lose or if they both win, or if it can go kind of these strange ways. But things can change at the very top of this league. As soon as we get the updates, I will let you know. The next map, however, will be Ruinberg. Now, I did not expect this one to be the next one in my eyes, but who do you think this one favors? Because we've seen Kazna Crew doing very well here when they play that village section. They seem very comfortable there, but do you think we're going to see that right now, or more a city presence?
I think
we go for that initial brawl.
Yeah, Kazna Crew are really the team that broke the meta on Ruinberg first, using the MX-5100 in the city to get those sniping shots off to the side along the F line. So I'm looking towards Kazna Crew to take this one. Certainly equally as good as Team Dignitas and Prokarovka as they are on Ruinberg. So I think the best advice I could give them is don't be tempted towards the village, because that's where Team Dignitas really excel, and they're certainly good at the initial firefight. Right. They need to be looking towards the city area, trying to get the information with the T1s, and obviously the MX-3090, which you usually pick one on for Ruinberg, and just really confuse Team Dignitas. You know, pop up somewhere, engage a little bit, retreat, pop up somewhere else, and just, you know, keep them on their edge, keep them on their toes, because then they keep guessing, and then they can't control the map, which is what they do so well.
See, now, the one thing that worries me, I do remember seeing Lanska Fantasia, I believe, against Kazna Crew on this map, and Kazna Crew were kind of caught unawares a little bit. So they're not the strongest team on this map, and for such a deciding moment, it could be troublesome. But we are seeing the tank picks starting now, with Stalker picking up those 2 tier 1s, but nothing yet really defining of these two. But what sort of picks do you think we're going to see this time?
We'll probably see a mixture of an MX-3090, obviously just one of them, and also a T69, a couple of them at least, maybe even these 3. The 5100 also will probably be picked out. It will obviously provide that firepower. The IS-3 has also been picked a couple of times, although I'm not a massive fan. It's kind of too slow and cumbersome. Also, the KV-5 has come in, which is, to be honest, a surprising pick. The 416 is in there sometimes. All these kind of tanks, they are the options, and they can provide a completely different, completely different spice to everything. Yeah. But it's just been a 2 T1 to start us off with from Team Dignitas and Kazna Crew. And we're going to be moving on to the real meaty picks, the tier 8 tanks, that is. Probably the MX-3090 and the T69 will be the first two, as they are the most obvious. Then we'll be moving on to something like a 5100, and if the team wants so, the 416 and the Pershing. But for Team Dignitas, it's going to be the 2 T69s, and they're going to be picking those 2 tier 8 American medium tanks out, obviously with that autoloader providing a lot of damage if it so wants to. But Kazna Crew also going for that pick, the double T69, making their tally a double T1, double T69. That's for both teams. Probably looking towards that AMX-3090 to their next pick.
Now, for a map that Kazna Crew have to bring up all even. Do you think it's time for a bit of a curveball? You say it before that, you know, to catch a Russian team out, you do have to throw a little bit of a spanner in the works. Is this where they need to pull out a new tank to the matter, or maybe just think about the strategies they need to adapt rather than the tank picks?
Yeah, I think it's not so much about tank picks. It's much more about the way you play the game. Obviously, if you take something like a KV5 or an IS3, then you kind of limit your possibilities because you can't really get from one side of the map very quickly. You can't really do very many tactics in the village because you have to drive across that green zone, which then you can get crossfired. You know, you always have those kind of things in the back of your mind. They always play a very big role in the way you play the map. But both teams, just the standard picks, the T69s and the two T1s thus far.
I do want to ask you the question as well. If Kazna Crew want to negate that initial exchange up the Crescent Moon, what sort of start should they go for if they don't want to risk it on such a kind of...
Just straight towards the, straight towards the city. But the next pick for Team Dignitas is that AMX 3090 and the predicted AMX 5100. So they're getting the two French tank picks out in one go, as will Kazna Crew. So it's just a mirrored lineup from these two so far as we head into the last two picks. This could be the Pershing, it could be the 416, or just another T69, which I think Team Dignitas will go for. They like WoT Pro. Their standard lineup's completely normal. Nothing that can surprise them and possibly do damage, more damage than good, that is, to their team. It's safe, but it's also good. I think, you know, if you pick something like, I don't know, 416, you get into a situation where it doesn't have the gun depression, and also it's not really, you know, compensated for by the fact the AMX 3090, okay, it doesn't have gun depression, but it has 6 shells in its autoloader, so it can kind of peek over, get a lot of damage down, and then get back. While the 416 doesn't have an autoloader, so it can peek out, get 1 shell, and potentially receive a lot of shells, and then retreat. So what's the point at the end of the day? But Team Dignitas, it's their next pick. It's their turn to try something new. It's probably going to be, I would consider a T69, although we have seen a couple of AMX 5100 as well from that team. It's just what they like picking. They like as much damage as they possibly can in one lineup. It's not too bad. I mean, the AMX 5100, it's almost as fast as the T69. It's just a lot bigger and a lot easier to take down. And obviously with 48 seconds reload from that SA-47, it can also be caught out a little bit more.
I did not expect that from Dignitas.
It's going to be the Pershing, actually, from Team Dignitas.
Did not expect that choice.
Yeah, so the Tier 8 medium tank from the Russians. Kazna Crew actually surprisingly going for something much more typical. Yeah. It's the T69, so a little bit of a switcheroo going on. For Team Dignitas, though, the lineup altogether is the AMX 3090. It's the double T69, it's the Pershing, it's the 5100, and it's the double T1. That's for Team Dignitas. And for Kazna Crew, we got the T69 ×3, actually, the AMX 3090, the 5100, and 2 T1s.
Well, it's going to be the deciding factor now for Kazna Crew. These guys, they've drawn out 2 maps now, but they still have the disadvantage from that game. I believe it was on Prokarovka when Apuau's beautiful play just kind of tipped the tables in favor to Team Dignitas. So this time around, Kazna Crew need this map if they do want to really draw it up all even and give themselves a chance towards that last map. So this is their defining moment. Let's hope they can do it. Otherwise, it could be the nail in the coffin. There's so many mines they need to avoid as well. That initial exchange, they can barely risk it. If they lose out, you know, one tank doesn't connect the shells, it could be game over. And Dignitas do not, you know, miss a trick like that. They will be straight on that. If they see they have the advantage, they will go for it. Now, that's the worrying thing here that Kazna Crew need to negate. They cannot allow an easy route in for Team Dignitas at this very moment. And that is exactly what they're going to be looking for. Now, your prediction towards this is?
Kazna Crew I'm going to go for.
You're going to go for... Okay. I did like the way they played on the last map. I feel as though they were seconds away once again from picking that one up. So I will actually join you on that belief of Kazna Crew picking this one up. So, guys, let's get ready for that video of Ruinberg.
Ruinberg is one of our newest city maps, and it's fairly large, being 800 by 800 meters. There are 3 main routes of attack: the roads leading to the city, the road going through the middle, and the village area. Each of these have 2 important areas to control. The city has very large roads and plenty of opportunities for teams to flank. The long roads also provide for good sniping areas as well as corner shooting. Teams often push through the village area, and once controlled, the team can move on to the enemy's base. You should pick heavy tanks with high alpha damage for corner sniping, as well as a faster tank for the middle spot.
So, welcome into the fourth map here. We will be seeing Kazna Crew down in the south in that gold and yellow, facing off against Dignitas in the north in the blue, and it is all to play for now for Kazna Crew. They need to turn the tides right here, right now, and I do not know what they're going to be doing to try and negate that initial threat the Ruinberg can really present. What do you think they're going to go for?
Well, I think for Team Dignitas, definitely heading towards that village. It's really their favoured place. I think they play it very well. They play it very logically as well. And you can see on the mini-map, it does look like Kazna Crew are going to head up that crescent moon with pretty much all their tanks, which is what we see from the south. It's what we expect. The only tank for the side of Team Dignitas to really surprise us is that MX-5100, which is heading towards the city.
Yeah, so we're going to see if that initial exchange does go down in favor. It's Hyber actually pushing in really aggressively there. And he's going to be making his way through. Does actually just avoid a lot of damage, but he does receive one shell. He's got 3 tanks. Oh my word, Applewell's in a great position there. He's going to hold Hyber in place. Crux, Narlam, and still Mojo need to get him out of this trouble. Crux comes in onto Shanish, down to 890 he goes. But where's Pova? Where's Karat? Hyber has fallen. Applewell claims such an important kill. Armony comes in as well. And this is shooting fish in a barrel, and those fish are called Kazna Crew right now. Narlam is low. Applewell is dealing damage like it's going out of fashion. Armony joins in on a Veko, and Kazna Crew need to back away because there is no way they are getting out of this alive.
They did so much damage, but they just didn't manage to penetrate the shells at the beginning. It could have been a lot better situation. They caught Team Dignitas with their pants down, but it's Garat and Shani should try and take down Veko.
They are trying indeed, and well, they've done it eventually. Povel comes in towards Narlam. Now still Mojo standing alone against the firing squad of Dignitas. Just Cobra Leone stands, and what a way for Dignitas to claim this one, at least into their advantage, and for overall possibly the victory. And well, 1v5, I don't fancy his chances right now, and it's a matter of time before he's found. And Kazna Crew just got dismantled one by one, and there we have it. Applewell will claim another for him, taking up to 3 kills that game. That was insane play from that man once again. So absolutely beautiful stuff. Yeah,
Applewell was really the key player there. He got himself into the right position with that AMX 3090 before Hyber could get there, but that's not really why they lost it. The fact that Applewell, you know, he was in a better position first, okay, that's fair enough. He could take down Hyber, who was on low HP, but the fact that Kazna Crew peered over that hill when the whole of Team Dignitas were looking right with their guns and they didn't do any damage. Yep. 4 of them just bounce, and that's the problem with guys. You need to aim your shells regardless of the fact that you're using premium ammo or not. That T69, the T178, only has 250 penetration, so don't go for the upper glaciers of that T69 or any other tank, even the MX-3090. Still aim your shells, because you all peered over, 4 of you, and you only penetrated 1 shot. If you penetrated all 4 shots, that would have been a T69 pretty much out of the equation, and that's what lost it for Kazna Crew.
Yeah, so it is 2-0. There will be a final map to be played out here, so I'm not sure how that one's going to go down. Surely Kazna Crew are not going to be in the most, prime mental state now, considering how close these games have been. And bearing in mind, it did go all the way through with 2 draws as well, so they did fight as hard as possible, but in the end, it wasn't really enough. And Dignitas, what can you do? They are so strong at the moment, and even in their close games, they still look like they can always, knock it up a gear to that sort of level of play. Yeah, they are.
They're just amazing. They're really the next level team, in my opinion. And I think they're the team that has really, progressed the most alongside D-Nova. In Season 1, yeah, they did take the finals finally, but they were back and forth with Mousesports. Mousesports, beat them every single time. They beat them, I think, 3-2. So Mousesports were in the favourite position to go forwards and take that win, but they didn't end up doing that in the end. And that was surprising. Although Mousesports do look a little bit of a better team this season, they only seem to be doing well against Team Dignitas and WoT Pro, and not the teams a little further down the table. But it's going to be a good ending map here. It's probably going to be something like an Ensk, as it's not the one that's banned out, or a Mines. But honestly, it's past the point of redemption for Kazna Crew. It's now 2-0 down. Even if they win the last one, obviously Team Dignitas will still have the win in this one after 2 draws. Last map will be Himmelsdorf, though.
That'd be a nice map, to be fair. It'd be good to see Kazna Crew at least getting, one game on their side, because they fought so hard. Getting 2 draws against Dignitas like they've done, really, really close games. It's not the easiest thing in the world at all for these guys to go, so close to it, but just not quite getting it done in the end. So I do feel for them. But still, Dignitas truly deserving of where they're at right now. And Himmelsdorf will be the cherry on top of the cake right now.
Himmelsdorf is it's their standard map, isn't it? It's really Team Dignitas' standard map. It's their one which they love. It's the one they play well. It's the one they need to improve on, I think, in terms of just being able to beat Virtus Pro. I think Virtus Pro is still the stronger team on this map. I still think Team Dignitas, although it is their standard map, and I think it's the map they train on a lot, it's the map they need to improve on as well. I mean, you can never be too good at a map. You can be too good at a strategy to the point where if any other team does anything differently, you get thrown off and you can't end up winning, which is the worst thing that can happen. But the T1 AMX 5100 is the first pick from Kazna Crew, and the double T1 from the Team Dignitas side. Kazna Crew's next pick is the T1 AMX 5100, so they're going for the double AMX 5100, as does Team Dignitas actually, as they pick 2 of them. So 2 5100s, 2 T1s for both teams.
Now, what do you think is the strength of Team Dignitas on this map? Because the one thing that really shone to me before when we watched them against Virtus Pro was their level of adaptation and their backup plans. Do you think they'll actually need that against Kazna Crew, or do you think they'll just win those one-on-one exchanges?
I think they need to. Kazna Crew is a really good team, full stop. They haven't been playing too well for the last 2 match days, losing against both Innova and also Spale. But they're a strong team, and you still need to adapt. You still need to change the way you play the game. You can't just play your standard tactics, and you can't just expect, as you said, to win that one-on-one engagements, because Kazna Crew have a good quality of player. And regardless of the fact that sometimes they rush to the shells like we saw on the previous map, they still have that skill to pay the bills. So the 2 IS3s for Hybert, same goes for Team Dignitas. Kazna Crew are going to go for the triple IS3, as they pick their last tank as that tier 8 Russian heavy tank. So triple IS3, double 5100, double T1. Dark Dawn's going to be playing the last IS3 as to be expected. He is that guy. He's literally like a Viking. We saw him at Gamescom. He has got a massive beard. He loves death metal. He's an absolute legend. And the last pick from Team Dignitas is the 5100. He's got the Team Dignitas got the triple 5100, double IS3, double T1, which is a little bit surprising because we usually see the Russian teams with those more Russian heavy lineups.
Yeah, and what do you think that really indicates right now?
I think Team Dignitas are not going to mess about. They're going to really try and do the damage and take that first tier 8 tank down as quickly as they possibly can. That's what those 3 SA-47s are in charge of. Obviously capable of doing 1.8k damage if it does land and penetrate all 6 shells at 300 average. But that's another question. 265 penetration, plenty against IS3s. Can bounce sometimes though. Depends where you really go for, and the IS3's mantle is very strong, although the top of the turret is slightly weak. What I really enjoy seeing is an IS3 against another IS3, because it's like 2 turtles bashing the heads. They can never really do any damage because they can only hit the shell of the other turtle, but they're desperately trying. And one's trying to reverse, and the other one's driving forwards, and it's just hilarious to watch. You need like a dad to come along and with the 5100 just finish the fight off. But the tank picking is finished. We're just waiting to get into game.
Yeah, hopefully they don't take too long in this one, and we won't be waiting around, because we do know Dignitas have won this, but obviously towards the later part of the season, if the games are extremely close, we can't allow teams to have an uncertain victory. Essentially, it's all about making sure these are clear-cut games. Yeah. And we are just going to hopefully get another invite here, just because my game is just having a moment. It's me breaking things, do not fear. But yeah, Himmelsdorf is a great map to see here, and I want to see how much Kazna Crew have evolved, because to me, Dignitas are always kind of the defining point, you know what I mean? They're the guys that if you do well against, it's incredible. It's all about that kind of getting the balance right for me. So I'm waiting to see how well they've improved, and if they've really kind of got to that level where they can start challenging now, literally like testing the waters. These guys are so damn good at it. Hopefully they are ready for it. Just give them the nod to go ahead there, just so we don't hold them up any longer, because I can't wait to see him on Himmelsdorf. Last time it was like watching poetry in motion from Team Dignitas, and I can imagine it'll be the same again, unless Kazna Crew have something laying in wait this time. And well, they've got certainly the capability of doing so. They've obviously gone for that one more IS3 than the 5100, but we are seemingly already here to get ready for that final map, so let's get you that video towards Himmelsdorf.
Himmelsdorf is a city maps of city maps. It's a small one, being 600 by 600 meters. There are 3 routes of attack: the hill, the banana, and the train side. The middle area is relatively easy to push, however can end up in disaster as you can be flanked from every side. The road, often called banana, allows for direct head-on assaults but requires a lot of resources. Both the railroad area and the road next to it are good routes of attack, being very open and straight. However, for those very same reasons, you can be easily caught out and taken down. The map features many densely housed areas, which provides good places for engagements and routes of attack. Teams must be aware of the various routes their opponents can take through the map, as well as the hull-down positions enemies can take throughout the entire map. The trick with Himmelsdorf is to catch an enemy tank unsupported by his teammates and then use that advantage to collapse on the entire enemy team.
So welcome to the final map, which Joe kindly told us was going to be Himmelsdorf. In the north, it's going to be Team Dignitas, currently sitting on that 2-map advantage, which is enough to give them the victory. Facing off against Kazna Crew in the south in the gold and yellow, with a hell of a lot of work to do.
Click going up towards that A-line. He's going to charge straight up there. He's playing the IS-3, obviously, in charge of that. But it looks like Kazna Crew, they're going to be playing the WoT Pro tactic, which is push all tanks up as fast as possible. Crooks leading the charge, but Hyber is up into good location straight away. It's going to be Dark Dawn and Crooks to come on to Arclit, but Arclit will have the reload and probably do some damage to Dark Dawn here.
Indeed, Dark Dawn is on the receiving end. He's down at 1104. Does get one shot, but here comes that side fire. They did not expect Garat to be in position so quickly. Dark Dawn's in trouble now, but finding the reply fire comes in from Hyber, takes him down to 595. This is 3v1, stunning stuff. Hyber smashing Garat out of the ballpark. Now giving the early advantage to Kazna Crew. Arclit looking like he wants to get involved. Applewell has backed off as he did receive damage, but here comes Povol to the battle. Arclit receives 1. Crux and Dark Dawn lay in wait. Povol just behind him in that 5100, staring down towards Steel Mojo. But Cobra Leone, Paluda, Veko all moving up as well. This is the battle we've been waiting for. Stunning stuff coming through from Dark Dawn and Crux, finding Arclit, taking him down to 719. But Applewell pushing in towards Hyber, trying to catch them off guard. They're focusing down towards the other tanks. They're going to do it. They're going to take out Hyber right now. They've caught him with his pants down. Applewell and Armely, perfect timing. And now here comes the rest of Dignitas, undoing Kazna Crew 1 tank at a time. Can Povol take down Dark Dawn, 4 HP. He's down and out of there. Armely will come in with that one, as Crux will try and fend off the forces of Armely. Povol, Arclit all surrounding him. Veko's gone for Applewell. He is not escaping. Arclit takes him down. Veko does some reply fire, but it feels as though it's too little too late right now, unless Veko can do something magical. He's on 87 HP. It's not going to happen. He's backed away, does just about survive, but Arclit in the meantime did find Steel Mojo, so it's just Veko standing really with his T1s beside him, but they can't really do much against 2 IS-3s right now, and a 5100, which will land that really dire and killing blow. GG well plays are being said. Kazna Crew, it's only a matter of time now.
It's about 38 seconds of time, in fact. And once again, those 5100s really playing their role, really giving that team the advantage. He could just collapse on and do some serious damage in such a short amount of time. But then again, I think the IS-3s in the middle will be kind of, asking the team, where were you guys? Where are our 5100s? And of course, they were reloading. They had the 48 seconds. And that was the ultimate downfalls. The IS-3s on their own, without the 5100 support, are just absolute sitting ducks. And obviously, Team Dignitas are going to pounce on that advantage. They're going to come around. They're going to finish you off. But having said that, I think Kazna Crew, they didn't really lose it because the tanks they picked, they lost because of Veko and Steel Mojo just being in the wrong positions. They should have been more towards the right side of that middle so they could finish off the tanks that were pushing up through the middle of Team Dignitas' base onto the tanks in the middle.
See, the thing for me is, as you mentioned at the start, that is WoT Pro's tactics, but it does not mean you'll be able to execute and be that individual player as well as WoT Pro are. No matter how many times they've probably used that strategy against Team Dignitas and won it, as WoT Pro, let's just say, if Kazna Crew do it, it's not quite as simple. So Dignitas have actually won this game. It's no real surprise there. We do need to check into the other side of what's going on at the moment to find out if WoT Pro had enough in stock to take out Oda Mortis and find out what that 1 and 2 position really will be overall, because everything matters today pretty much. It's all about that top 3 position.
Yep, and I can tell you the results of the engagement between WoT Pro and Oda Mortis ended in 2-all. So a draw for these two teams, which will give them 1 point towards that season ranking. And, well, it'll keep Team Dignitas quite happy right at the top there, taking it quite nicely indeed, 3-0 against Kazna Crew. So good job by Team Dignitas. Virtus Pro not looking so strong. Odomortis with a surprise result, though. That could be indicative of them heading back up that leader table as well.
And they needed that. They've been on that kind of little mid-season slump. They started so well. They went on, it was like a 4-game winning streak against the very top. They were sitting in first position, and they kind of petered away. But really nice to see them getting back in there, taking down Virtus Pro, or at least drawing it out with Virtus Pro. Because as we said, they don't draw games.
No.
Like, this whole season, they haven't drawn a game. I don't think I've seen them draw one in the past 2 seasons. But, you know, Odomortis did it. Not quite enough to pick up the victory, but still, I'd be happy with that against Virtus Pro.
I'll be extremely happy. You know, that will give you the confidence at the end of the day. The team that took Season 2 at Gamescom, you've just drawed on, and you've also beat Team Dignitas. So really, I mean, surprisingly, Mousesports, not so much actually, but, you know, Odomortis looking like the giant killers at the moment.
Yeah, indeed, they're going to steal that title away from Mousesports. So,
and Speil, I guess.
Yeah, indeed, there's a lot of teams out there that can really cause upsets, but still, we had a fantastic game. We did manage to see Dignitas being pushed to their limits there, drawing out a good couple of games, but Prokarovka was just defining of their skill. Applewell taking the initiative, taking the risk, and it paying off and finishing the game out really in some style on Himmelsdorf there, and obviously the map prior. But I've got to say it, Prokarovka, to me, was the ideal map to understand why Dignitas are so good at that game.
Exactly. I mean, absolute adaption. And it wasn't just adaption, it was also training. They obviously had it. Well, they have everything down to, you know, seconds of timing.
Yeah, for sure.
Applewell, he gave his hand away at the perfect time. The T69s were in their positions at the perfect time. And that was really clinical. And it was just imaginative at the same time. Just amazing to see.
Yeah, so with that in mind, I don't know how many of you guys at home got that prediction right, because I never would have guessed that outcome. I'd have thought it was either going to be a 5-0 in the nicest way. I love my Kazna Crew, but I didn't think they would have been able to draw it out that much and then lose it on maps I really thought they should have won it on. But still, that in mind, let's pass you back over to Melly to find out how many of you actually at home did get that one right, because I'd be surprised, and if there's any questions as well, obviously. So Melly, how is it out there in the land of Twitch?
Well, the community was pretty sure about the outcome of this match because the vote showed a clear advantage of roughly 80% for Team Dignitas. And the predictions in the comments below were also mostly in favor for Team Dignitas. But I didn't see a 3-0 prediction yet. But since they're like 10 minutes in the past, yes, we're in the future, they're in the past. They still have a bit of time left to guess right, and I will check in with that a bit later. So there was an exciting game.
It was incredible.
On one side we have Team Dignitas sitting on top of the table, and on the other side we have Kazna Crew that is not really showing us its full potential yet. But let's try to see this through Kazna Crew's eyes. How do you feel as a gamer sitting in front of this matchup and trying to get yourself prepared, get ready for this game? How do you feel? How is your mindset?
Terrified.
Jinx.
Yeah, the thing is, I remember talking to a couple of players before, and the fear of a name can sometimes outweigh the teams themselves. And just coming up against Team Dignitas, it's such a, you know, massive name within esports, outside of, you know, just World of Tanks, and it's just terrifying, especially when they're that good as well. When they're at the top of the season, they're there for a reason. It's kind of hard to get over the name itself and going, okay, guys, we just gonna have to beat Dignitas, no worries. Yep. It's a little bit daunting or terrifying, as we decided to duly say. I don't think there's any way you can prepare for that kind of thing. You just gotta see how you do on the day. Yeah,
I think Team Dignitas just really good team, and as you said, you know, you mentioned the most important point. They have that name. They have that name of well, both the pedigree behind Team Dignitas and also the players and the fact that they won Season 1. So I think that's going to play heavily on the Kazna Crew minds at any team they do end up playing for the rest of the season. But for a team like Mousesports, it also seems to give them a boost of momentum going into the game. So I guess it can work both ways. It just depends if you can handle the pressure.
True.
Okay. I also asked you guys at home for your favorite tank line, and George tweeted me that he loves the light tanks, specifically the French ones. They just owned on Prokarovka. And yeah, what do you think about that? How useful are the French lights in your opinion?
Sure. Well, like the AMX 1390 was pretty much the revolution. It made World of Tanks from the T32 versus the T32s and the King Tigers into this game where everything's suddenly a lot faster and the MX-3090s are darting around the map at 72 kilometers an hour. So that's the big difference. I love them. They're hard to play, full stop. I remember when they first came out, they were a lot easier with the aim down time and stuff. But they're very hard to play. You know, the low penetration is about 248 millimeters, 246 millimeters. That can be very hard against an IS-3 and a T69. Also, the aim down time is not particularly good. The accuracy is not particularly good. And it's just generally a hard tank. But if you can master it, and like many of these players can, then you've got yourself a real deadly tank in your hands.
Yep.
Okay, and is that your favorite tank line, or do you prefer another one?
I'm an artillery player. I mean, I know I'm a scumbag, so I love my artillery. So
I didn't know this about you until now.
I love my 261. Yeah.
261.
My Object 261, the Tier 10 Russian artillery.
Scumbag.
Yeah, artillery is my name again. I've got T92 as well. That's one of my favorites.
Okay, thank you. So if you have any questions on your mind, just head over to Twitter. Tweet me by using the hashtag WoT Pro League so that you make sure that I actually see that question. So, and I just got one in the Twitch chat. Do we have any news where they could buy tickets for the grand finals? So the location is still pretty...
If you want to buy tickets towards any of the finals, I can imagine the best place to look will be the WOTProLeague.com website. And as soon as they are available and it's fully announced, they will be on that site and we can direct you to it as soon as it is actually made public and we're all aware of it.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next vote will be online. Sorry, the next vote will be online in a few minutes for the upcoming matchup. So head over to our Facebook page and stay tuned.
Well, Melly told you what to do, so make sure you do it, otherwise you'll be in trouble. You don't want to mess around with that girl. I've told you the stories. Let's just leave it there for now. Otherwise, I'll be in trouble during the break. But on that note, we are going to be going to a break, but when we come back, it will be Spale up against Playing Ducks. Now, that's so many community favorites in one play day. It's unbelievable. So you guys do not want to be going too far away. We'll be back in about 10 minutes, I can imagine. So maybe put the kettle on, get a couple of biscuits, and join us back. Hopefully, we'll see you then.